Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, and today's video is part of a video hop to celebrate It's Me JD's YouTube channel passing 50,000 subscribers. So there's going to be several videos as part of the hop. There's going to be giveaways. I will have more info about that at the end. So we're all doing rainbow themed projects, which of course, that's the best in my opinion. I like rainbow everything. So I started with the Honeybee Stamps Rainbow Wishes wafer dies. They coordinate with the stamp set, but there's also individual dies in the set that are just standalone dies, like these little rainbow strips, which I love. They're separate dies, so you could easily die cut multiple colors of cardstock without being left with all the extra pieces, if you know what I mean. So rather than do color cardstock though, I just die cut everything from distress watercolor paper. And then I am sponging on Distress Oxide inks onto each of these. And I'm just working on my little Waffle Flower water media mat. Really simple. I'm not doing any like fancy blending with this. I just want to get the color on each piece. So I'm going through and I started with picked raspberry, and then I did carved pumpkin, squeezed lemonade, twisted citron, salty ocean, wilted violet, and I'll have a list of everything, all the colors I used and links and all that stuff. And I have just some Post-it tape. That's the blue paper kind of stuck to my fingers there. That's just to prevent me from getting marks on these, because working with, you know, distress inks, distress oxide inks, etc. It's really easy to leave marks with your fingers when the ink is still wet. So using a little scrap piece of paper or Post-it tape like this kind of helps eliminate that. So after I did all of my blending on all of these pieces, and it just got faster and faster as each piece got, you know, smaller. I just kind of lined them all up just because this makes this step more convenient. I just kind of lined them all up in rainbow order. And then I'm going to just splatter water on these. So I'm using my little Ranger Distress sprayer, but I almost never use the actual spray part of it. I just take it right out of the bottle and use that to flick water at this. And I flicked it on pretty heavily because I wanted to get that, you know, that fun splatter effect. Let it sit for like 30 seconds and then just picked up the excess ink or excess water with my little like flour sack cloth that I like to use. Paper towel works great as well. And then I quickly dried it with my heat tool just to get everything dry. Once it was dry, I actually moved my media mat up so you could see what I was doing. To adhere all these pieces together, I found the easiest way to do this was to flip them over, and I'm just using the edge of my media mat because it's raised to bump up each piece. So I'm not kind of fiddling and trying to line everything up. I literally just started with the largest, worked my way to the smallest, bumping them against that bottom edge. And then once they were all in place, I'm just taking little bits of washi tape and taping it all together. So it's not adding, the washi tape isn't adding any bulk or anything like that. And I can just tear it into small pieces and then just adhere all of these together. A couple pieces is more than enough, but as always, I like to add extra just to be safe. So I get everything adhered to the back of my little rainbow so that it is now all one, basically one solid piece with all the different colors. And you could do this with, you know, colored cardstock, etc. Like flip them all over, line them all up, tape them with washi tape, and you're good to go. So now I've got my rainbow, I need my background. So I pulled out another piece of the Distress watercolor paper, and this time I am sponging on some tumbled glass Distress Oxide ink. And again, speeding up my editing here. It still didn't take that long, and I'm not applying a whole lot of pressure, but I just kind of started right where the rainbow's going to go. So any marks I might leave in that spot, because it's a little, you know, darker, that's going to get covered up by the rainbow. So I'm not too concerned about that, but I use very light pressure and I just kind of work my way out from there so it fades off nicely. So once I was done with my blending, I'm doing the exact same thing. You get a more subtle effect of this, but you can see it in real life, is splattering the water over the tumbled glass. And it just gives it that, you know, little extra bit of texture. So removed the water with the cloth. Once everything was dry, I decided on what sentiment I want to use. And the sentiment is from the Rainbow Wishes stamp set by Honeybee. So I'm going to use my stamp platform to make sure I stamp this perfectly. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment with VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. So I'm going to line up my sentiment, and then I'm going to stamp it a couple of times onto this background. The Distress watercolor paper has a rougher side and a smoother side, and I'm working on the smoother side, but even then sometimes, especially with big sentiments, it's nice to be able to stamp it more than once to get it perfect. So I've got my sentiment stamped, and then I'm going to start working on the other elements to finish off this card. So in that honeybee coordinating wafer die set, there's also cloud wafer dies that I really love because they're outline. They're technically outline, but you get the outline and the inner portion. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 sort of deal. And there's multiple sizes of it. So I die cut just a couple from white cardstock, and I end up with 2 outlines and 2 solid clouds, depending on what I want to use. So I decided to use the large outline, and then I just adhered that directly to my card base with some craft tacky glue, and then kind of figured out how I'm going to position everything. So got that one adhered, and then I'm going to adhere my rainbow, just again adding some craft tacky glue to the back of this, and then I'm just going to press it into place right on my card front. And then once these are adhered, I decided to pop up my solid cloud with just a little bit of foam tape. I'm just using some thin 3D foam squares for this, just to give it a little bit of dimension. Plus everything like the rainbow and the outline cloud already adhered. I have already kind of, you know, bumped it up a bit. So this way it kind of sits better on my card front. So I just applied a couple pieces, a little bit of craft tacky glue, and then I'm going to adhere those into place. And then once I got this into place, I decided rather than use the other outline cloud, the smaller one, I decided to use the solid one instead, just to cover that little bit of rainbow that's kind of just sitting there, you know, that little bit. Even though the rest is going to get cut off, it looks unfinished in my opinion. So I'm going to just adhere just a little corner of the cloud there just to cover that up, and then I can flip this over and just use the edge of this panel as my guide, and I'm just going to trim off that excess with scissors. So also paying attention, I was very aware of where my finger was so that I don't like cut, you know, a good chunk out of it. So got that all adhered. And then before I adhere that to my card base, I want to stamp the inside of my card first. And so I'm going to use another couple sentiments from the Rainbow Wishes set, as well as this little like kind of sunshine, sunburst. I don't know what you want to call it, but you know, this stamp you see on the screen. That's what I'm using. So I lined that up and I stamped that with the Squeezed Lemonade Oxide ink. So it's pale on camera. In real life, it's just, you know, this cute little sunburst. So I stamped that first, and then I'm going to line up the first part of the sentiment, stamp that with the Nocturne ink, remove that from my platform, and then this way I can butt up the second part of the sentiment to be like right below the first part. So got that lined up, stamped that with the Nocturne ink as well. Off camera, I quickly dry this with my heat tool because Oxide ink and the Nocturne ink can sometimes take a little longer to dry. And then I'm going to adhere this card front to my card base with the craft tacky glue. And it completely covers my card base because it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So once I've got that adhered, I'm going to add one final little embellishment, keeping things still fairly simple. I pulled out these Studio Caudia. I have these clear rain teardrops embellishments that are very similar to just the circular ones that Studio Caudia has that I absolutely love. But these ones are into that little like rain or teardrop shape. So I arranged just a few of these on my card. I didn't go crazy like I normally do, but just added a few of them, and I'm going to adhere them into place as well with this craft tacky glue. And when you add the glue, it does look cloudy, like each drop looks cloudy, but they will look completely clear when the glue dries because this glue does dry completely clear. So you won't see the adhesive at all. So I just picked up each of these with my jewel picker, put down a little dab of that glue, pressed it into place, and then I'm just going to kind of rearrange everything again to make sure that they're all, you know, straight up and down so that things look proper, so I don't have any wonky little raindrops on here. So once I got these adhered, that's going to finish off my card. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is part of a video hop, so there will be links in the description below to the next video. There will be a link to the It's Me JD blog because she's going to have giveaways and all that kind of fun stuff. So all that info about the giveaway, etc., will be in the description box below. There'll be more info on her blog. I will also have supply lists, all that fun stuff, so you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing, for thumbs upping, and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!